The November 29th, 2022 meeting of the Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Colby.
Here.
Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahaney.
Here.
Mr. Delahaney is present. Mr. Vecchio Hoffman is excused. Chairman Dondorfer.
Here.
Chairman Dondorfer is present. Ms. Hugh Smith.
Here.
Ms. Hugh Smith is present. Mr. Milne.
Here.
Mr. Milne is present. Mr. Morris.
Here.
Mr. Morris is present. Ms. Vecchio.
Here.
Ms. Vecchio is present.
Anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Is there anyone present who has not signed up to speak that would like to address the committee at this time? Seeing none, I would like to introduce the one and only Robert Franklin, Chief Financial Officer of the Monroe County Legislature, of the Monroe County, who is here to present the 2023 proposed Monroe County budget as it pertains to the Public Safety Committee. We'll have a question and answer period following the presentation. Mr. Franklin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will be as brief as I can possibly be with public safety. Ladies and gentlemen, the realm of public safety as it pertains to this committee is the second largest segment of expenditure within Monroe County's budget. It actually accounts for about 22% of the total $1.3 billion budget we have. As you've seen in previous presentations of previous years, within the public safety area are our sheriff's office, our Department of Public Safety, our district attorney's office, and our public defender's office. Each of these four areas typically brings to the legislature referrals throughout the year to accept grants and amend their operating budgets. The largest of those referrals that you'll see has been to accept additional state funding within the public defender's office and the conflict defender's office, which we account for in the Department of Public Safety, related to New York State's settlement of the Harold Herring lawsuits. If I may start with our Office of the Sheriff, total appropriations within the Sheriff's Office are increasing by $14 million next year. It's about an 8.6% increase from the currently adopted budget. In addition to some shifting of positions between functional units, the proposed budget adds 38.5 full-time equivalents with an $8.7 million increase in payroll, of which our retention bonuses account for $1.8 million. Within the Office of the Sheriff, it's a large organization, a couple different divisions I want to comment on. Sheriff's Administration, I'm going to suggest, is primarily a maintenance of effort budget. It does add one FTE shifted from another area. So the increase to its payroll and benefits is about $335,000 combined. The Civil Bureau is also what I will call primarily a maintenance of effort budget. Their appropriations are increasing just $130,000. The most significant change you'll see within the budget book relates to our Police Bureau. The Police Bureau's budget increases by $6.4 million. We're adding 16 full-time equivalents, and we are shifting another 19.5 FTEs between functional units to increase the number of deputies in Zone A and B, the Criminal Investigations Unit, and their Tactical Unit. Total payroll for the Police Bureau, including benefits, increases about $5.9 million combined. And organizationally, this is the division where we are budgeting ROCTAC, the Rochester Threat Assessment Center, and accounting for the anti-violence collaboration efforts they have with the Rochester Police Department. The largest division within the Sheriff's Office is their Jail Bureau. It's primarily, I'm going to suggest it's primarily a maintenance of effort budget. It adds 1/2 of an FTE, and the jail's payroll and benefits increase a combined $3.8 million. The jail's contracts for its medical services and commissary increased by about $551,000 combined. Another bureau within the Office of the Sheriff is Court Security. Their budget is increasing $1.4 million. And the notable change for this bureau is that the proposed budget creates 12.5 FTEs with a new title, Special Patrol Officer. These deputies will be peace officers. Last but not least is the Staff Services Bureau. Budget for staff services is increasing by $1.1 million, and it's adding 8.5 FTEs, 7 of which are for the new officer wellness program. And on the revenue side for the sheriff is budgeting about a $3.7 million increase, and we attribute that to additional jail revenue related to federal detainees, additional state reimbursement commensurate with higher court security costs, and the use of $1.7 million of fund balance to support their anti-violence efforts. Our Department of Public Safety, you'll see the budget is increasing by about $4.7 million. It's about a 6% increase. We're adding a total of 16 FTEs to the department with a $2.4 million increase in payroll, of which retention bonuses account for only $413,000 of that, and a $1.1 million increase in benefits. Other changes I'd like to highlight include a $2.1 million increase in the cost for their contractual services, half of which is due to having public safety manage county-wide our contract with Securitas for departments' security guards. The contractual services also reflects higher costs for software maintenance, utilities, and our contract with the city of Rochester to operate the 911 center. 10 of the department's 16 new FTEs I mentioned a minute ago are in the Conflict Defender's Office, and they were created earlier this year with offsetting New York State revenue related to the Harold Herring lawsuit settlement. Also in the Conflict Defender's Office, you'll see the budget reflects a more distinct separation of the assigned counsel program from the management of the rest of the office. And the last change I'd like to highlight is that positions in the probation officer series of titles, trainee, officer, senior officer, that series, those positions have all been upgraded in this budget. It's a total of 155 positions. If I can turn your attention to the Office of the District Attorney, appropriations are increasing almost 10%, $1.7 million compared to the adopted budget this year. Next year's proposed budget adds 9 FTEs, including 4 assistant district attorneys for nonviolent felony prosecutions. Total payroll and benefits for the DA's office increases roughly $1.6 million, of which retention bonuses account for just $239,000. Higher debt service within the DA's office and chargebacks for things like insurance and information services predominantly account for the balance of their budgetary increase. And our public defender's office is where we probably see the greatest variation each year between the adopted budget and the amended budgets. Many of you know New York State's Office of Indigent Legal Services, OILS, as they're known, provides a 3-year funding allocation of roughly $1.5 million. Every year, they get a 3-year award. Due to the Harold Herring lawsuit settlement, OILS is also providing additional funding to expand indigent defense services. The settlement funding is expected to grow each year for 5 years. 2020 was the first, and then level off. State funding does have strings attached, of course, such as requiring counsel at first appearance. There's a legislative referral going through the process right now regarding counsel at first appearance. They also have expectations around case assignments and maximum caseloads. As a result of these new requirements, the Public Defender's Office has been adding additional staff positions each year, including 20.5 new FTEs earlier this year. Mr. Chairman, that really concludes. Happy to field questions.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. I'll now open up the floor for any committee member who has a question regarding the public safety portion of the budget. Seeing none, we'll move. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, legislator.
I like
Go
your
ahead. The
idea.
floor is yours.
We can do that too. Through the chair, and these are basically general fund questions. Through the chair, how much, if any, general fund balance is being applied to the public safety budget? And if general fund balance is being applied, what is the breakdown of restricted versus unrestricted applied fund balance?
Well, Mr. Chairman, within our Department of Public Safety, public safety is accounted for almost entirely within the general fund, and it's $80.03 million. There is debt service, however, Mr. Chairman, which is accounted for in the debt service fund that amounts to $2.96 million.
And through the chair, through the chair, what is the breakdown of the public safety as it relates to appropriations charged to the general fund, debt service fund, and capital projects fund?
The Department of Public Safety, Mr. Chairman, does not charge our capital funds. Rather, capital projects are authorized by the legislature through the issuance of a bond resolution or a cash funding transfer. There are cash-funded projects in this budget. This budget, like 22, has $910,000. So that's an appropriation within the general fund, Mr. Chairman. And if the budget is approved, come 2023, sometime in January, we will transfer cash from the general fund to the capital projects that this money supports. The balance of this budget. Again, it's all general fund, 80.03 million, and debt service fund of 2.96 million.
And through the chair, what percentage of the department's budget is mandated versus non-mandated?
I did not run, Mr. Chairman, department-specific calculations of mandate versus non-mandate, so that would be something I'm going to have to follow up with this body before the full meeting in December.
And lastly, under these questions, through the chair, what is the department's total indebtedness?
So, Mr. Chairman, so that's a little interesting. We don't actually account for bonded indebtedness by department. We account for it by fund. However, I guess I will guide you to beginning with page 396 of the budget book. We highlight debt service. This is not indebtedness. This is debt service by each department. And you'll find public safety beginning on page 396 and wrapping up on page 397.
Thank you, sir. I yield the floor on these questions.
Legislator Morris, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. On page 448, appropriations on the Public Safety Director's Office, cellular telephone increased from $1,200 in 2022 to $3,880 in 2023. When many departments are backing away from increased cellular costs, can you explain the increase?
Mr. Chairman, cellular telephones and the trunked radio system are the two primary methods by which staff communicate with each other when they're out in the field. The director's office often includes funding for replacements of phones that are not accounted for in the individual divisions.
And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, again on 448, under appropriations in the Director's Office, line 505010, clothing increased from 0 to 2,000. What's the proposed purchase or anticipated purchases?
Clothing, Mr. Chairman, actually is relatively flat from the 22 budget, amended budget, to the 23 proposed budget. But the staff within public safety attends numerous community events, and this is for county logo branded jackets, polos, etc.
And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration on page 450, Under legal representation, salaries fall from 862,000 and change in 2022 to 839,000 change in 2023. Can you share the reason for the decrease?
Mr. Chairman, this is really all grant related, primarily the oils grants, standard grants, and Harold Herring lawsuit settlements. So later on in 23, as the year progresses, you're going to get a referral that's going to amend this budget.
Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, staying on page 450, under legal representation, professional service, it falls from 4.1 million in 2022 to 4 million in 2023. What's the reason for the $100,000 increase?
This is all related to
Increase,
the, Mr. Chairman, this is all related to the assigned counsel program. This one is actually a little tougher to manage because you'd be surprised how slow attorneys are to bill the county. Usually the primary bill comes at the end of the case. Cases are getting a little longer. I say it's difficult to project, not that difficult. Honestly, it ranges anywhere from say $3.5 to $4.5 million a year.
Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration on page 447, under probation retirement plan surcharges remain at zero from 2022 to 2023. Just inquiring about the reason for that.
So interesting, page 447, we don't actually use the account for retirement surcharges. Retirement costs, sorry, page 447, Mr. Chairman?
447, I think he's not looking at count 507011. I think that's what he's looking at.
Okay. This is our diversity, equity, inclusion, which I'm happy to answer the question, although it's not really pertinent to this office.
But I know, I'm saying that's where he's going.
But I'm happy to answer the question because you may see it in other departments. Retirement, non-New York State. So new hires who are M&Ps, management and professional, who make a salary of, I believe it's $75,000 or higher, can elect not to enter the New York State pension program. Instead, they can opt into a defined contribution program. Monroe County kicks in 6%. They can defer some of their own salaries, but they will not draw a New York State pension. Instead, just like you're a government employee, so not you, but anyone in private industry who has a 401k plan or a 403b, it's very similar. When you leave employment, you can take that money with you and roll it to an IRA or to your next employer.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, on page 454, stop DWI traffic safety contractual services line decreases by approximately 60,000. Major decrease being in the other expense line. Can you explain that?
This is all grant related. Usually in the Stop DWI program for other expense, we account for the high school mini grants that are offered, all grant related. They have expenses for, this is probably the wrong way. I'm going to call them honorariums for speakers at victim impact panels. But again, that's all grant related. So you're going to see a referral later on this year.
And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, on page 449, communications contractual services bottom line increases from 674,000 and change in 2022 to 1.1 million and change in 2023. Just to break that out a little bit, commercial services line 504205 is increasing from 123,650 to 166,800, and the maintenance computer equipment line increasing from 31.5 to 374,000, and then finally the maintenance equipment line 504290 increasing from 189,115 to 215,150.
You got me, Mr. Chairman. I could have sworn you said 449, and that's
That's
just
not the right page.
449. Oh, my apologies. With all that, through you, Mr. Chairman, with all that detail I gave, were you able to hone in on it?
Do you happen to know the division pertinent to
So,
the
I'll give you
question?
account number.
communications, Public safety.
Public safety communications.
Public safety communications.
And you were looking specifically at the group of contractual services, and you highlighted a couple changes. Is that correct?
Yes, right. There was contractual services,
Yep.
bottom line increase from 674,000 to 1.1, just over 1.1 million.
Yes. So there are a couple line items within all the contractual services that are changing. I'll note just a couple of them. Commercial services, which I believe you mentioned. Commercial services, this is where we have all our site repairs, crane services. We have 22 towers around the county where we install all our P25 trunk radio system communication equipment. Each tower has its own shed to house a generator. So there's always repair work to be done, either generator work, shed work, or work on the equipment on the tower. So that handles a lot of that because we have to contract that out often. Maintenance of computer equipment, big increase, right? The budget goes from 31.5 amended to 374,000. This is really maintaining the computer equipment related to the trunked radio system, our paging system, which is still on an older analog system being moved to digital. And we have another 345,000 for specific trunking infrastructure services. And those would be the company, Flower City Communications is one of the bigger companies we contract with for repairs. Another big driver is maintenance of equipment. That's the generators at those tower sites. The other big one is a $15,000 increase in the cost of utilities, specifically electric.
Thank you. And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, on page 457, 911 emergency communications, salaries increase from 97,486 in 2022 to 222,092 in 2023. Can you just explain the reason for the increase?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is an additional FTE being assigned to 911 communications. That's specifically a senior computer project coordinator for our computer aided dispatch system, our CAD system. It's a group 19 position. So with that additional FTE plus the contractually obligated pay raises and step increases, that accounts really for that difference.
And then on page 462, under appropriations, Public Safety Mutual Aid Fire Bureau, maintenance equipment increased from $2,700 in 2022 to $9,490 in 2023. Could you just explain that increase?
Most of their equipment, Mr. Chairman, is service and training related. It's probably just their best guess. It's relatively minor equipment that usually gets replaced or fixed.
And then again, through you, Mr. Chairman, on page 458, security, safety, public safety, safety and security salaries are decreasing from 371,172 to 265,527 this year in this proposed budget. Can you explain the decrease, please?
So, Mr. Chairman, that was an idea I had in 22. Our Children's Detention Center was in the need of four county security officers. Because the detention center does not have experience managing security guards or security officers, I suggested we instead create those positions within the Department of Public Safety, who does have experience. That just did not work out one iota. So this budget moves those county security positions back to Human Services at the detention center. It's not a loss of 4 FTEs, it's a loss of only 3. Why? Because we do have a security coordinator for the county, but we're hiring a second one in this proposed budget.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chairman, on page 463, again, under Mutual Aid Fire Bureau, transportation equipment decreased from 48,000 to 0. What's the reason for this?
That's a vehicle, Mr. Chairman, they purchased this year. They don't purchase the vehicle every year. Frankly, they're going to be accessing the capital projects fund for public safety replacement vehicles.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, again on page 464, emergency management salaries, and there's an increase from 440,603 to 548,619 in the proposed budget. Can you just explain the reasoning behind that?
We do account, Mr. Chairman, for grants in the proposed 23 budget, but not all the grant. Through later during 2023, when the grant award officially arrives, we're going to bring a referral to amend this budget. So the change you're seeing is really the difference between the full grant being reflected in the 22 amended budget and just partial funding being reflected in the 23 budget.
Thank you. Through you again, Mr. Chair, on page 464, under agency contracts, there's a decrease in 39,500 last year to 0 in the proposed budget. Again, can you explain the reasoning?
We did have a contract that's being shifted. The new contract, this was a U of R consulting and training contract. Had been grant funded. I don't believe that's coming back.
Okay. Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, staying on page 464, under, on page 460, I'm sorry, yes, under emergency management 464, there's agency contract decrease from 38,976 last year to 6,013 for 2023. Can you explain that, please?
Not seeing 6,000. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm not seeing 6,013. Page 464.
Under emergency management agency contracts,
I see a 22 amended
Sorry.
budget of 134,968, which includes grant funding, 0 for 23. And that's the grant I'm not positive is coming back.
then I'll follow back up with that. On page 465, under appropriations, emergency management, information services, an increase from 77,374 last year to 158,246 in 2023.
So in addition to, Mr. Chairman, in addition to the increase in information services budget that you're seeing higher chargebacks in every department, information services actually hires employees to work on public safety related systems. So information services hires the person organizationally, manages for the person, and then we charge it back to the department.
Thank you. And again, through the chair, on page 466, under Monroe County Crime Lab, licensor accreditation fees show a fall from 34,049 in 2022 to 14,049 in the proposed 2023 budget.
All grant related, Mr. Chairman.
And last question, just regarding personnel. On page 737, Office of Public Safety Personnel, again through the chair, can you please explain the personnel changes from 2022? And you may have covered this, I apologize if so. There seem to be 2 new positions, a senior computer project coordinator, group 19, and an added caseworker, as well as changes in groups to the first assistant conflict defender group, 20 to 22, assigned counsel admin, group 19 to 21, probation supervisor, group 17 to 19. Again, if you could just explain these changes and other personnel additions and eliminations by title, if you have them, or if they've been provided to you, and the reasoning behind the addition or eliminations.
Mr. Chairman, there are a significant number of personnel changes. Rather than go through each one tonight, we will follow up in writing.
Thank you. No further questions.
Legislator Delahanty.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Chairman, my focus area tonight in the budget, I'm going to be looking at the sheriff's office. Okay, get this adjusted here. All right. Through the chair, how much, if any, general fund balance is being applied to the sheriff's office budget? And if the general fund balance is being applied, what is the breakdown of restricted versus unrestricted applied fund balance?
Mr. Chairman, we're using $1.7 million of the general fund balance to support violence response initiatives and their collaborative efforts with RPD. I understand the question, restricted versus unrestricted. Technically, we use a different language. This is all assigned fund balance. Our 2021 financial statements categorize fund balance into different categories. We have assigned fund balance, $8.5 million, and the intent was to use $1.7 million a year to support violence response efforts within the sheriff's office.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, does the 2023 proposed budget allocate any cash capital for sheriff's office projects? And if so, why was the decision made to use cash capital instead of additional debt service?
Mr. Chairman, we do have cash capital contributions in the sheriff's office. Two items. First is $1 million cash transfer to a capital project for the jail mainframe, the eventual jail mainframe replacement project. We've been allocating $1 million a year in that budget since either 2019 or 2020, just to try and get ahead of the cost of that, because it's going to be a phenomenal cost.
Okay.
The other capital project, cash supported, is for replacement vehicles. We budget roughly $1.6 million a year. The sheriff's office purchases roughly $1.6 million a year worth of replacement vehicles. The vehicles they purchase come back. The vehicles they purchase we're only allowed a 3-year payback. That's not a lot of time. And rather than incur the bond issuance costs and the associated interest, it just makes better financial sense, since it's an annually recurring budget of the same dollar amount, just to budget the cash up front.
And through the chair to the administration, what percentage of the department's budget is mandated versus non-mandated?
Mr. Chairman, since we don't run department-specific calculations for that, that's an item we'll have to follow up on.
Okay, thank you. And through the chair, I know I speak for all the majority caucus members when I say that we must ensure that our law enforcement is supported more than ever before, and have all the resources necessary to complete your duties. Is there anything the legislature can do to improve or bolster your proposed department budget as it stands now?
Never ask a department head if he wants to spend more money.
And don't say helicopter.
So, through the chair, I would like to say that the administration.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Well, now I appreciate that, and I'm just going to follow up now. You're not getting away that easy. I've got my appropriation questions now, so if we can just go through those. Through the chair to the administration, on page 485, under appropriations for the sheriff's administration, temporary help increases from 0 in 2022 to $23,799 in 2023. I understand the shortage in officers, but how was there zero temporary help needed in 2022?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, this is not a sworn position. This is really a part-time clerk too. For whatever reason, we seem to have the payroll for part-timers fall to temporary help rather than salaries. This is just a reflection of that.
Okay. And through the chair to the administration, on page 488, under appropriations for the sheriff, police bureau salaries, they increased from 22,192,446 in 2022 to 25,118,357 in 2023. What is the largest or the biggest reason for this increase?
Biggest reason, Mr. Chairman, that's the increase of 16 FTEs for the police bureau. I did say in my presentation, in addition to there's also a shifting of sworn officers between functional units. So there's an additional, I believe it was 19 coming into the police bureau.
Okay. And through the chair to the administration, also on page 488, under appropriations, Sheriff Police Bureau, professional services increases from $51,250 in 2022 to $69,250 in 2023. What is the reason for the increase?
Mr. Chairman, that's really related to paramedics who assist in our SWAT training, vet services for the mounted patrol and our canines. In fact, kennel services for our canines, blacksmith services for the mounted patrol, even sign language interpreters, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
And through the chair to the administration, also on page 488, under appropriations, sheriff, police bureau, professional services, falls from $148,750 in 2021 to $51,250 in 2022. What was the reason for this increase?
You got me again, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a wrong.
Oh,
page
I
reference.
apologize on that. I'll follow up on that. I misspoke on that question. I apologize. Moving forward, through the chair to the administration, on page 494, under appropriations, sheriff, court security, local transportation parking is added as a line item to 504-270, budgeted as $36,200. Can you explain this?
It's basically, Mr. Chairman, just a shift in how we account for the parking. In prior years, you have to look to the bottom of this section, 504-625, other expense. In prior years, we budgeted the cost of parking at the Civic Center garage to other expense. Other expense is pretty nondescript. We actually have an account called parking, so we're using parking.
Got it. And through the chair to the administration, also on page 494, under appropriations for the sheriff, court security, professional services, increases from $312,000 in 2022 to $456,450 in 2023. What is the reason for the increase?
You got me on that one. I don't see that on page 494.
Okay, that's another question that I will research. I apologize for that. And we'll try following up, going through the chair to the administration on page 495, under appropriations for sheriff, staff services bureau, temporary help, decreases from $518,100 in 2022 to $184,268 in 2023. What is the reason for the decrease?
So, Mr. Chairman, Sheriff's Office does try to budget based on a historical average. 2022 is an anomaly. Obviously, we have part-time deputies here. The cadets that are going through the academies at the PSTF, interns and recruit trainees, and then there's a part-time accreditation coordinator. But 2022 was an anomaly where there was budget transfers that should have been included in a third quarter reappropriation that would have increased this amount.
Okay. And following up with appropriations under sheriff with Staff Services Bureau, professional services increases from 312,000 in 2022 to 456,450 in 2023. What is the reason for the increase?
Mr. Chairman, that's really all psychological testing for our new deputy hire candidates. The increase in medical testing, which includes pre-employment background testing. We do have a professional nurse position that is new. That's our employee medical case coordinator that was added in 2022 that we're now accounting for in this budget.
Okay. And following up with appropriations for the sheriff for Staff Services Bureau, computer software increases from 35,198 in 2022 to 106,000 in 2023. What is the reason for this increase?
So this is, we're probably going to see some variations going forward, not just within the sheriff's office, but in a variety of offices. We try to, you'll see a shift from purchasing software to licensing software. But within this particular line, yes, it is an increase. There is a new server watch software, but so that was about $20,000. But across the departments, across the county, we are seeing increases in licensing costs.
And moving on, I just have, kind of a general question again, and you may have to get this back to us in writing. But under the Office of Public Safety Personnel, through the chair to the administration, can you please explain the personnel changes from 2022? There seems to be two new positions, an officer wellness clinician, which is a group 16, and a senior management analysis, which is group 16. And then I see there's a database specialist, which is a group 15. There's also a threat analyst, group 15, and a clerk 1, which is a 10, a paralegal 10, and a special police officer, which is hourly. Can you explain these changes and other related personnel additions and eliminations by title and explain the reason for each addition elimination? Yes. Also, I talked about the senior management analysis. It's a group 16. The database specialist, which is a 15. The threat analyst, which was a group 15. A clerk 1, which was a 10. A paralegal, that was a 10. And a special police officer, which is hourly.
Sure. So the two clerk ones, now that I got the mic to work.
There we go.
So the two clerk ones were, we did job analysis of a couple of positions in the jail bureau and realized that they should be clerk 1 positions based on their job performance. So we're correcting that. The paralegal is we're hiring a paralegal to work inside the jail. So all the incarcerated individuals we have to provide a paralegal for them. So they're able to, we have a full-time position that's just been open. So now we're finally able to fill it. You didn't ask about it, but we also, we changed a couple of our drug and alcohol rehab, the way we're doing that. So we made 1 supervisor rehab counselor and 3 rehab counselors instead of the drug and alcohol counselor title. That's a change we made because we're just having trouble hiring people. So as we reorganize that unit, we're trying to do that. The threat analysis, that's part of the investigation center, the regional investigation center that we're opening, included with the other personnel, the investigator and the sergeant that I mentioned. The analyst is also part of that same center. So they're all going to be working together. And the whole purpose behind that is when there's a regional threat or a regional investigation, we're going to be able to bring that together in one spot so that we can conduct an investigation across multiple jurisdictions to coordinate these investigations, which certainly cross town and city lines, but county lines as well. So this way we'll have one area in the whole region, in District 16, which goes all the way to Finger Lakes and down to Pennsylvania, same as our Monroe County Analysis Center, be the same region that we'll be using this center for. So that's what those positions are for.
Great. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any further questions.
I blame the microphone on the shoulder.
I was using my right arm and I didn't notice. I'm sorry.
Legislator Millen, you have the floor.
I have a couple of follow-up questions for the district attorney's office. I see that state aid seems to be budgeted down by about $43,416 to the original 2022 budget and down $438,000 to amended budget. Is this simply due to, mid-year adjustments and not really knowing what's going to come in from the state when the budget comes out?
Mr. Chairman, the DA's office is also one of those departments that brings a number of referrals throughout the year. So the change you see, the decrease you see is really entirely grant related.
Thank you. And through the chair, Major Felonies Bureau, salaries seem to be down approximately $460,000 under line 501000. Is this due to retirements or persons being allocated elsewhere, or?
It's really, Mr. Chairman, a shift of employee resources. So moving 4 FTEs out of the Major Felony Bureau.
Thank you. And again,
There's some grant impact, though.
Thank you, sir. And again, through the chair, and this may be not budget related per se. The asset forfeiture program that has been talked about, where do those dollars go if obtained, and how much has been attained in the last 2 years?
Those go to a special trust, Mr. Chairman, a forfeiture trust account. We would have to research how much has been received by the DA's office.
What are those, I'm sorry, what are those funds actually used for, though?
Majority of the funds are used for replacement vehicles, furniture and equipment used in the DA's office, some contracts with local agencies, although that might be more grant related, like the GIVE program. But it's
Great.
really to supplement their budget, not supplant budget.
Thank you. Again, through the chair, as I'm going through the budget, and I had this on page 354, but I show approximately, or I think I read approximately 119 homicide cases, 2021 through June 2022, approximately 97 indictments, 51 convictions, and a total of 68 closed homicide cases. All great. Of the remaining open cases, are most of these still pending, awaiting trial, still in the investigatory stage? Just wondering where those open cases are.
Through the chair, Dawn Staub, District Attorney's Office. The investigatory stage on cases is wrapped up much quicker than it used to be because of the changes in discovery laws. So the numbers that you see are ongoing cases, cases that are still awaiting trial. We are still dealing with some cases that came to us in 2019 and 2020. So many of those are still awaiting trial that are still pending.
Thank you. Thank you. And lastly, and this may, Dawn, be another question for you, but through the chair, we are hearing of all the increased gun violence in the city. How has this impacted this particular office and its caseload?
Through the chair, also a very good question. I can give you a few numbers that are more current than those in the budget. As far as gun arrests, criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree, through last week, as a matter of fact, we're at 585 arrests for this year, which exceeds arrests from the 4 previous years in totality. And of course, the number of homicides, significant. As of this week, we are at 74 homicide victims, which is 10 short of last year's record. So we are probably on track, unfortunately, to break that record.
Thank you very much. And I guess I'll follow up through the chair with a follow-up question to that same thing. How does that increase, how is that impacting us as far as appropriate people to, cover those cases?
Through the chair, caseloads are up. And to put it in context that many people that I speak with anecdotally are able to understand, we're authorized for 87 assistant district attorneys. 24 of those staff our local courts bureau, so they don't deal with felonies. So basically, we have 63 felony ADAs. And with the number of homicide cases that we have this year, that's more than one per ADA, which many felony ADAs used to touch a homicide case.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I yield the floor.
Leader Burgess, you have the floor, sir.
Through the chair to the administration, just when you, during the presentation, when you spoke of that 19.5 shift with the police bureau, just wanted to know where those are coming from.
Looking, Mr. Chairman, at the sheriff's office, we see one FTE moving over to administration, 16 new to the police bureau, a half a position in the jail bureau, 12 and a half in court security. Those are those special patrol officers, 8.5 positions within staff services, 7 of which relate to the wellness program. The shifts within the police bureau, we're talking shifts moving from something like the navigational, I may need your help there, navigational unit into zones A, B, criminal investigations, the tactical unit.
Yeah, and I think the shift, through the chair, I think the shift that you're asking about is we did take some of our jail positions because we just don't have the ability to fill them and move them over to the road patrol so that we could overfill our academy. And then as we're making strides in our jail bureau, we're going to end up moving them back. But this way we could, because it takes 9 months from the time you get hired until you're actually out there working in the patrol that are you're useful to the county. So over the next 9 months, we're going to see those retirements. So as they retire, we now had the ability by the shift to hire now, so that when we retire, we're not then short another 1.5 years for that person. We can actually immediately have that person ready to go, or 9 months from now have them ready to go. But as those numbers go back down and we start increasing our jail staffing with the changes that we're making, then we're going to move them back to the jail to try to bring the jail back up. But we just knew that we had the opportunity now to fill positions in the academy for the road so that as people leave, they'll be there and we're not going to be 1.5 years behind the 8 ball.
Leader Vecchio, you have the floor.
Office. Court Bureau for a moment. You mentioned special patrol officers. Are those new hires?
Through the chair. So the 12.5 special patrol are actually going to be retired, considered retired part-time deputies. And the purpose behind that is once we hire everyone we can for the court bureau to fill the staffing gap that we have, as we make the transition in the court bureau from going from the court bureau to eventually ending up in the jail bureau, and keeping everyone over in the courts that are there now. But in the meantime, as we're so short in the jail, this is to help fill the gap so we have enough people working every day. So they're going to backfill after the court bureau members. And they're retired either police officers or peace officers.
The court budget is increasing OCA. From OCA. I'm sorry. Does the county receive funds from OCA to cover the court bureau? And if so, what percentage is covered by OCA?
Mr. Chairman, yes, we do get reimbursement for court security from the state of New York. It just doesn't reimburse for the training costs. But once the deputies are assigned to court and are actively working, we get the reimbursement. All of it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so that one, I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chairman. That 1.4 million increase will be covered by OCA, am I correct?
Not full, Mr. Chairman, only because New York State won't reimburse the time that a court deputy spends in an academy training.
$12.5 special patrol officers. What sort of training will they be put through? Are, as you said, road patrol or peace officers, and the court bureau is different, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure. So we'll do two types of training with them. One is we have to make sure that their certification, either their peace or police officer certification, would still be valid. So they have to be within 4 years or up to 10 years is additional training we'd have to do for the certification piece. And then we're going to evaluate what training they need specifically for the court bureau compared to the training that they have, and we'll give them that training. That will probably be more on the job type training, but we're going to evaluate what they need depending on what position. So obviously, if you work the magnetometers in the court, it's much, there's a lot to that. So you're going to need additional magnetometer training, just like we do in the jail now, for those specialized assignments.
Beth, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, I understand the public safety as 16 new. But I also wanted to understand better the increases in the 155 positions for. What was the reason for that change?
Mr. Chairman, County Human Resources worked with a couple different operating departments on what we've been calling sensitive positions. These are positions that work directly with the public, are difficult to recruit and retain. And there are many aspects of employment and difficulties in hiring, one of them being our county pay. So in discussions, it was agreed upon that probation office series of title would be increased accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, are these series, are they all new, like you've now?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman, no. The series of titles, you have probation officer trainees, probation officers, senior probation officers, and supervising probation officers.
Thank you for the clarification. Could you explain the starting salary for those positions?
Rich Tantello, Director of Public Safety. The range, starting pay ranges based upon the position. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but somewhere in the area of $42,000 or $43,000 for a probation trainee, and then subsequently moving up from there. I can give you the pay scale provided to you later in regards to the positions within the probation department.
Thank you. I would appreciate receiving that information in more detail. And through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, what are the educational requirements for these positions?
The educational requirements, if I have the through you, Mr. Chairman, I think I forgot that the first time. So through you, Mr. Chairman, twice. Probation trainee is an associate's degree. And then as you move up through the various positions, in order to be a probation officer, you have to have a bachelor's degree.
Thank you very much. Do you have, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, the figures on that 155 positions, are they all full currently?
Through the chair, currently the probation department does have some vacancies, but I would proudly say that we've had a very aggressive hiring schedule the last 4 or 5 months and have hired nearly 17 new staff members and continue to work from the civil service list to complete or fill those vacancies that exist. So I'm not sure we'll fill all of them in 2022 based upon the schedule of exams being released from civil service, but certainly our goal is to do that as quickly and as effectively as possible.
Chairman, if I may, I just want to point out probation officers are Group 15, and I find that on page 737 of the budget book. Group 15's salary schedule also ties to page 747. A Group 15 entry is 53,277, tops out at 73,166.
Thank you very much, Mr. Franklin. And so just to clarify, Group 15 is for probation officer?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
And that's for people who have been required through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, for people with a bachelor's degree, starting at 53,000.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, Mr. Franklin, do you happen to have any more detail on the number of vacancies currently?
We do not, Mr. Chairman, as the number of vacancies in any department, such as public safety, changes almost daily.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, would you be able to please provide me with some demographic data on the probation officers, trainees, officers, senior officers, male, female?
Mr. Chairman, we'll follow up with our Human Resources Office.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I yield the floor.
Any further questions, Legislator Colby?
Two quick questions through you, Mr. Chairman. You talked about moving staff around in A and B. Is there no staff changes in Zone Z then, or C then?
No, through the chairman, I think the answer is we're moving some people out to the zone. So we're adding an additional deputy with the deputies that were part of the legislative referral from earlier in the year that are going to be going to the zone. But there's not going to be deputies moving from one zone to the other. That's unlike a normal transfer, but we're not changing the assignments at the zone. We just added one in each zone in addition to our TAC unit and things like that. So that's what we meant by moving them around the zones.
Okay, thank you. And another question through you, Mr. Chairman. 911, they have a new program they're trying out with having a nurse or a technician, somebody answer the calls to see if ambulance has to be answered or has to go instead if they can handle it inside. Where would that be in the budget and how's that handled? What department would that person be under?
Through the chair, you would see that included in the chargeback to the city of Rochester from the county of Monroe within our emergency communications department budget. I have the number in the folder because it's sitting behind me. I can get that to you, sir. The Nurse Navigator Program is what that's called.
Yes, thank you.
Right? And that's just to build upon that, that's to really help with the stress level associated with EMS services in the county so that an individual who's seeking some medical assistance can be diverted perhaps to an individual, a telemedicine type of situation, and then not have an EMS unit and staff respond.
Thank you. So that person, through you, Mr. Chairman, would be a county employee.
Through the chair, the telecommunicator answering the call is a City of Rochester employee.
Okay.
The Nurse Navigator employee is contracted through AMR.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the October 25th, 2022 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Next item, new business. Mr. Clerk.
Referral number 22-0406, acceptance of a grant from New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the 2020 Explosive Detection K-19 Grant Program.
Mr. Chairman, second.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. First of all, real quick before the next item, thank you to everybody for coming and for your wonderful answers. Under Sheriff, I hope you feel better quickly. Thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Referral 22-0407, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the 2020 Bomb Squad Initiative Grant Program / Homeland Security State Homeland Security Program.
Move it, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 22-0408, authorize a contract with the Good News Jail and Prison Ministry for staff to provide non-denominational counseling and programs for the incarcerated persons at the Monroe County Jail and Monroe Correctional Facility.
Second.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Legislator Morris, you have the floor for a question.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, did any local, to the administration, did any local companies submit an RFP for this?
Through the chair, Maurice Leone. No, they have not.
Any further discussion? Legislator Hugh Smith, you have the floor. The question was, how long is the county contracted with this particular agency?
Through the chair, it's 2019.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries.
Referral number 22-0409, authorize a contract with Prime Care Medical of New York for incarcerated persons' medical and mental health care.
Moved by legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Milne. Any discussion? Legislator Delahanty, you have the floor.
Through the chair, with the shortage of healthcare professionals across the industry, is this specific specialty being affected? And is the increase in funding providing a competitive salary for the staff?
Through the chair, first, this is a professional services contract, so we're not involved in the hiring or recruiting. What we can say is that they have had adequate staff to perform the functions that they've contracted to perform. Relating to the increase, this is the first year, as you may be aware, New York State made it mandatory for a certain level of drug treatment within the jail, and this is the first year that that's being reflected in part of that budget. It's all been wrapped up in the healthcare budget, in the prime care budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 22-0410, acceptance of a grant from New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services for the Offices of the Public Defender and Conflict Defender for the provision of indigent legal services.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 22-0411, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Stop DWI Foundation for DWI High Visibility Engagement Campaign Enforcement and authorize agreements with 9 municipalities and 2 state entities.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Questions, legislator Colby, you have the floor.
Chair, I didn't see Ogden Police Department included in the list of agencies. Is there a reason why?
Through the chair, the Ogden Police Department did not request funding for this particular program.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 22-0412, authorize a contract with Richard J. Watts for continuing development and sustainment of the county's radiological emergency preparedness program.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this?
Thing is the last one through the Mr. Chairman, the Ogden Police is enlisted. Are they don't perform these services, do you know, or they just don't take the time to apply?
Through the chair, the referral we're referencing, if I got this correctly, is in regards to the contract for Rick Watts
Yes.
as a consultant. So this is radiological in nature, and that individual would guide and support us during, if you will, a Gannett drill based upon that.
They wouldn't be part of it. Okay.
Right.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 22-0413, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the city of Rochester for a firearms instructor.
Moved by legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Milne. I'd like to declare my interest for that. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Vecchio?
Through the chair, this is a longstanding agreement we have with the city of Rochester because they actually own the range. So we help, they have a member on staff for their firearms instructor that runs the range and works out there full time. So we offset some of their salary as a condition of being able to use the range.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 22-0415, authorize a contract with Bus Patrol America to provide and implement a comprehensive school bus stop program.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Legislator Milne.
A couple of questions to follow up through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. How is this, number one, how is this project being funded? Number two, is there a projected revenue? And number three, what is the projected time for completion and when will the program begin?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's a lot for me to remember, so bear with me. So,
Project being funded.
right. So with the agreement with Bus Patrol, which comes highly recommended by many different municipalities and communities throughout the country that we've had conversations with, is they will handle all of the upfront costs associated with that. So they will come in with the equipment and handle the installation once the agreement is in place, and there are no funds exchanged yet.
Then the follow-up question to that, sir, through the chair, was it talks about implementing a revenue sharing program for violations. Is there any type of projection on that at this time?
Through the chair, they have given us, if you will, some model estimates, but nothing that we could necessarily count on. Of course, that will be determined by the number of school districts that participate in the program, or I should say transportation departments that participate in the program.
Thank you. And final question, again, through the chair, what is the projected timeline for completion of getting things set up and then when the program actually starts?
Through the chair, so certainly it begins now as we go through the referral process. But a more specific timeline is once everything is in place, the referrals are approved, the IMAs are signed, the districts have opted in. They indicate that a reasonable installation time period would be 180 days.
Thank you very much. I yield the floor.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 22-0417, authorizing any municipal agreement with Ontario County for the coordination of the county's radio systems and the placement and operation of new interoperable communications equipment.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion? Legislator Colby.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, will Monroe County be responsible for the ongoing costs of maintenance?
Through the chair, we are responsible for the cost, but from clarity, because I had this, if you will, testimony last night, they're only putting on a microwave dish on the tower and a cable to connect to a box below. There is no real infrastructure piece to this.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Pardon me. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 22-0428, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the 2022 Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention Grant Program as a matter of importance.
Skipped 423. Yep.
Have it on the agenda. Is that on?
Is 423 pulled?
Must have missed the agenda. We'll add referral number 22-0423, approve the collective bargaining agreement between the Monroe County Executive, Monroe County Sheriff's Office, and the Monroe County Deputy Sheriff's Association.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Legislator Vecchio.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. It's not on the agenda that we have here that was printed. Is that?
The committee assignment is Ways and Means.
Oh, was it not? So it wasn't.
Okay.
Right, just,
423.
423 is in Ways and Means and not in Public Safety also?
according to the referral here, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so moving on, we'll strike that and move on to 428.
428, referral number 22-0428, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the 2022 Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention Grant Program.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. One question for the administration. This can just go to Ways and Means and does not have to come back to here, correct?
423?
423.
Yeah, it was assigned just to Ways
Just
and
to
Means.
Ways and Means,
Yeah.
okay, even though it's a police.
Yeah, I believe that's at the discretion of the president. Yeah.
Perfect, okay,
Yep.
very good. Thank you. Yes. Very good. All right, are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no other matters, the November 29th, 2022 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be held on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022 at 5:30 PM.